The ability to take that data and precision breed is what we should have been really talking about. When you look at YDLI, right, that's the whole part of it. Is how does it bring you out of your comfort zone, challenge you, and make you better for it? As we continued here through the last 6 years, that's been our mission, right, was to do what's right for our youth, but also to make sure that our membership knew that we were working for them. Obviously, the makeup of the animal is a key component, but then there's environment, and then there's availability of resources. And we have so many great technologies that exist out there.
Welcome to Holstein Connections, where we share the latest stories, insights, and news from Holstein Association USA and beyond. The largest dairy cattle breed association in the world, Holstein Association USA provides leadership, information, and services to help dairy producers worldwide be successful. Whether you're in the barn, on the road, or just tuning in for your dose of dairy news, we're glad you're here. This is Holstein Connections.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lindsay Warden, CEO of Holstein Association USA, and I'm excited to welcome you to another episode of the Holstein Connections podcast. Today's guest is someone that many of you may recognize, Nick Randle, U.S. Senior Marketing Lead for Dairy Productivity and Milk Quality with Zoetis, current President of the Red and White Dairy Cattle Association, and incoming Chairman of the Holstein Foundation Board of Trustees. I've had the privilege of working closely with Nick over the years in all of these different capacities, and I'm really looking forward to today's conversation, one that highlights both the professional partnership that benefits so many breeders, as well as the personal passion that Nick brings to our industry. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks, Lindsay. I appreciate it.
To get us started, Nick, let's go back to where it all started for you. Talk to me some about your involvement with dairy cattle when you were growing up, when you decided that you wanted to build your career in the dairy industry, and then how you got into the role that you're in today.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like a lot of people, right? It starts as a kid on a dairy farm, and that's same thing for me. I grew up in central Indiana on a registered Holstein farm, roughly 60 cows, and pretty exciting times for me as I was growing up, and thinking back to the time that I had with my father and my mother and my brother back there. It's pretty special. You know, from that point forward, we actually ended up selling the herd, and she moved into hydroponic tomatoes from there and took a different path in agriculture. But I didn't let the dairy passion slip from there. I kept a couple heifers and obviously entered into 4-H. And I think that's another part, right, where a lot of people end up building their love for the Holstein cow, and did 10 years in 4-H in the dairy program. Started breeding my own animals probably within my third year, I guess would have been in 4-H. And then at a certain point, my dad and I were like, you know what, we kind of like this red color thing. And so we started investing in red and whites, and, you know, kind of the cow for us that really hit the mark was Green Leah Advent May Red. Bought an Ohio sale in, let's say it was 2011, pretty sure is when it was, but she was our first All-American that we had. And it was pretty special. We've got a lot of animals that still trace back to her. But we kept moving from there and kept buying different animals. We still have red and whites today. We have taken a bit of a hiatus from the showing aspect. And I think a lot of that's honestly due to the fact that my dad's become a grandfather, and he's got 2 grandkids that are pretty special for me. It's great having a niece and a nephew back there in Indiana. Obviously, we don't see them as much as we'd like to, but pretty cool to see, especially my niece. I mean, she's almost 3, but she definitely, you can see, has interest in cows and wants to come and hang out with some of the animals we've got. One of them we've got, her name's Lion-like, but she calls her Simba, obviously off of Lion King. Kind of a cool thing to see her interact with the cows and continue that. And obviously, from a passion perspective, I married another girl that has the dairy bug, a little bit different breed than Holstein, but I think we all would recognize the animals that she's had on the Guernsey side as pretty elite themselves. So it's been a family affair for sure from day one.
Your wife's family is what made Guernseys cool again a few years ago. So that's pretty awesome. And I think,
Yep.
Nick, this is part of the reason you and I probably get along so well, is we have a lot of similarities to our background and growing up. So thanks for sharing that with us. So you've been with Zoetis for most of your professional career since college, if I don't forget, which again, that's not something that's super common today for a person such as yourself to kind of work your way up through the ranks within the same organization and not switching careers. So how'd you first join Zoetis, and what's kept you engaged there?
Honestly, entering into college, I wanted to be a surgeon, believe it or not. And I decided that I wasn't going to get my fix of this bug we have with dairy. And so I actually changed over to veterinarian and pre-vet. Did my 4 years there at Cornell. Obviously, was part of the CUDS program there, our dairy science program. Applied for vet school, but between undergrad and vet school, I had actually applied for an internship with, at the time, was Pfizer before we transitioned into Zoetis. And I became our first dairy genetics specialist for an intern role and covered the Dakotas down to Kansas and Nebraska. And, at the time, we had one of our leaders in livestock had come to me and said, hey, what's this vet school thing you really want to do? Like, why is that the direction you want to go? And I said, well, for me, I think it's more of the research side of things that has me interested. I said, it's not that, I want to go out and sleep cows every day, which I think is obviously a huge part of being a veterinarian. But for me, I think it was trying to discover new things. And he had told me, he goes, I don't think that's a path for you. He goes, I think it's different. And so my role turned into a contract role for a few months. And then I got a territory sales region in upstate New York. So I went from Ithaca out to the Dakotas, then back to Ithaca, and did that for 5 years as a territory manager for Zoetis, covering the central part of New York and parts of Pennsylvania. And then had this opportunity come up to my current role. And so at the time, it was just the marketing role for dairy genetics. And in all honesty, right, this is kind of a real cool opportunity that I saw. And probably at the time for me, I think it was a dream job. I still love what I do every day, but obviously there's things that have been added to my plate, and I appreciate that opportunity. I've been here in the marketing team since 2018 now. So I manage our dairy genomic platform, which obviously we've got partnered with Holstein, our milk quality platform, and I've dabbled in our reproductive platform as well. It's been really cool to expand my reach. Like you said, I mean, it's definitely not something that any of my peers are doing. The fact that I've been here at Zoetis since 2013, it's kind of crazy, to be honest. Most people that I'm friends with or know, right, they've gone through probably 3 or 4 jobs at this point with different companies. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think a lot of it comes back to, though, the fact of what our company stands for, the team that's always been around me, right? Whether it's been the sales, the marketing, or the technical service side, or our support teams, they've really become part of who I am and shaped a lot of what I do today. I would say that there's absolutely a lot of mentors that I have within Zoetis, and whether they're still here or not, they've taught me a lot. And I think the culture we've built is pretty big.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's kind of stay on this track talking about your professional life and talk a little bit more about our collaboration. So Holstein Association USA has partnered with Zoetis for many, many years on genomic testing and Enlight. In fact, it's actually been over a decade, which is kind of crazy for me to think. And both Nick and I have worked together for most of that time. Nick, from your perspective, why do you think that the Holstein Zoetis collaboration is a good fit? And what do you think's kept it so strong over the last 11 years?
Yeah, I think a lot of it starts with the extras, right? And what we're trying to do for both the membership of Holstein and obviously our customer base at Zoetis. There's a lot of similarities there of what we are both built on in terms of going beyond just the norm. I think the other part too, right, is finding that next thing and getting out in front of the puck. I would say from a genetics perspective and our partnership, that's something we've always strived to do. You look at Enlight, I mean, it was the first of its kind in reality in the way that we, set that up. Yes, obviously there's platforms that are like it today, and we've continued to improve upon it, and we're going to continue to do that here in the next year as well. But you also look at the way that we look at the Holstein cow, and as far as her genetic advancement, obviously the health side of things are a big part of what we do, whether it be from a prediction perspective, a preventative, or a treatment side. And I think that Holstein aligns with that extremely well. We want to make sure that these cows are living as long as possible to be as profitable as they can. I think the collaboration that we have, honestly, it's unlike any other. I can think back to, the numerous meetings that we've had over the years. We always kind of finish on that one thing of our partnership is just so different from every other one that we have. And it's not that other partnerships that we both have aren't worthwhile or engaging or definitely an impact. It's just a different feel. And I think that it's that openness that we have to really create what's best for the breeders out there and the farms that we interact with is what makes it special.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 110%. I think always pushing to do what's best and keeping the dairy farmer always in mind, keeping the cow in mind, and how can we equip our dairy farmers with the best tools to breed the best cow that's the best fit for their individual operations. We're not trying to put people into a shoebox or have a cookie cutter solution. We're trying to really equip people with tools that they need to breed that cow that's going to work best for them in their environment.
Like you said, that's a huge part of it. It's absolutely the way that we look at each individual farm and say, hey, what what's the direction you want to hit that makes you the most successful? And I think that we've seen that for years, right? With different paths. Everybody has a different way of doing it, but we are there to make sure that they are successful.
Yeah, 100%. Let's talk just a little bit more about Enlight. So Enlight is an online web-based genomic data management program, and it's really been a central element of the Holstein-Zoetis collaboration, and it has been since day one. And I always hold Enlight near and dear to my heart because that was one of the first real kind of growth opportunities that John Meyer gave me, was to be a core part of the Holstein side of the Enlight team. And that's something that I'm really proud of. Like you said, it was the first of its kind. It took us from emails and spreadsheets to this dynamic online platform that's really kind of set the model for what's become the industry standard today. So that's something I'm personally really proud of to have been a part of. For listeners that might not know about Enlight, or maybe they haven't used it before, or they haven't used it in a while, how would you describe it and the value that it brings to farmers?
For me, the way I look at it is that central database for your genetic potential. It's not a herd management system, and we never wanted it to really be that way, right? Like that was not the intent of it. It was more from that high view of your herd, but giving you the ability to see what kind of progress am I making, and also to challenge what we're putting in front of you too. We have the ability in there for all of our customers to essentially create their own index, compare it against the indexes that exist already within the industry, and see how those animals re-rank. That's something that's been pretty cool. The benchmarking aspect that we have built into it to see where your herd is ranking within the United States averages by birth year. We've obviously built another element to it with the genetic insights reports now every triannual, right? That gives a little bit more of a feel of some interesting areas that may be of opportunity for you, as well as where you're really excelling. It gives you that regional feel as well. As we continue forward, it's meant to be that place that you go and not just entering a transaction with Zoetis and Holstein. It's a place to help you plan out, where am I going and where have I been? The historical record part of it, right, I think is huge. It's very simple login, and you can see everything for the last usually 15 years is kind of the way we set it up, just because of a database storage capacity. But I mean, over a 15-year span, you can go back and kind of figure out, okay, here's what I've been doing. Now, have I been achieving what I wanted to, and did I get above the mark that I wanted to? It's not a mating tool by any stretch. We think that that's up to the professionals for that within the AI organizations, but it's really truly supposed to be something that gives you that footprint view of, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's where I want to go. I think that some of the enhancements we're looking at too is going to give you that better ability to plan out as well for the future, whether that be in production, health, sustainability, overall functional type. It really gives you that freedom to do what you want to do.
I used to describe Enlight kind of like a report card. Now I describe it more like a roadmap. Like you said, you can see where you've been, you can plan out where you're going. And I would say for any of our listeners, if you haven't had a chance to experience Enlight, if you're genomic testing and that's something you want to learn more about, just reach out to your Holstein USA regional rep, your local Zoetis rep, and they'd be more than happy to give you a demo and help you get started using that. So Nick, we've had genomics we're closing in on 20 years since the first genomic test became available, which is kind of crazy to think about, but time flies. What's one advancement in genomic testing that you've seen in the past decade that you feel like still amazes you today?
It still comes back to our ability to predict disease. I'm just fascinated. And obviously we got out in front of it in 2016 when we developed our cow health traits, and then, advanced that onto the calf traits, and we've moved into some reproductive traits. But I'll tell you, the lameness trait is just fascinating. It truly is almost a yes or no at this point. The way we put these on a scale, right? We have obviously STA, so 100 is average, and then 5 points below or above are essentially within that same range. And then you go beyond that. When you get an animal that's at a 95, you might as well just mark her down that she's going to the trim and shoot. And I think that those are the things that we keep keying on as we continue to progress around the management ability of genomics. You think about where we started. To me, it was all about keeper cull. And that was the whole point of genomics, outside of the obvious abilities of parentage, right? Which to me, in the very beginning, that's the biggest thing that we could have ever done with genomics, is identifying parentage, right? We still have that issue today. I mean, we're still on that 20% mark, if I'm not mistaken, from a sire perspective, let alone a dam perspective. That's where we went wrong, was on just thinking about the culling aspect. We didn't shape genomics into what it is today. That gave people a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth. That's probably why we haven't got them back as quickly as we would like. because a lot of people took genomics tests and they got data back and they did nothing with it because they
Yep.
felt like every effort was worthwhile keeping. At the time, that could have been true depending upon how your operation is. But the ability to take that data and precision breed is what we should have been really talking about. I think that's a hard point that we all recognize, and I would say kept us back in the first 5 years in reality in terms of overall herd growth. Obviously, we've made tremendous amounts of progress from day one, but I think that was something that held us up. And then as we've continued on with these traits that are really looking at the disease states and how we can now take these beyond a mating conversation and really precision management, that's where the future is. And that's where we're really shaping to go here. And I'm pretty excited for it because I just think about some of the things that, we've spoken about as two organizations, think about some of the stuff that we're working with our customers today. That precision management is real. It's something that's going to continue to fine tune itself.
Yep, I absolutely agree. So kind of on that same vein, Nick, you talked about your career path earlier. I mean, you started out as a boots on the ground person working on farm for several years before you transitioned into the role that you're in now. So how do you see technology and data changing the way that farmers make decisions over the next 5 to 10 years? I think it's pretty revolutionary when you look at all the new technology that's become available just in the last decade. I guess looking ahead, what does the next 5 to 10 years look like from that standpoint?
Yeah, wasn't even 10 years ago. I felt like we still had a lot of herds focused on even recording enough of the data in their herd management systems to be able to go back and see the different trends that may have existed. I think that herds have gotten extremely better on that in terms of documenting those different health events or the interactions that they have with those animals through their lifetime. As we're moving forward, though, those great record keeping tactics that they've done are going to allow now for people to actually be more proactive. So, kind of piggybacking off what I was just talking about with the genomic side of things, it's only one element of how we're looking at the management of these herds. Obviously, the makeup of the animal is a key component, but then there's environment, and then there's availability of resources. And we have so many great technologies that exist out there, whether it's from a record keeping perspective, whether it's from a sensor perspective, genetics, milk data. Those things are so great, but to bring them together is what we have to start doing better, because there's only so much time too. Every herd manager only has so many hours in the day. I don't think that that's something where AI or a robot is actually ever going to take over. There still needs to be someone, right, that's minding the ship and paying attention to how these things are being done. So how can we make their jobs easier? Well, a lot of that comes around making that data into a one-stop shop, making it something that they can action today, giving them that list of here's exactly what needs to be done from either a culling perspective, a breeding perspective, treatment perspective, challenges within the environment too, and thinking about how we're able to now trace a lot of these things from like a methane output perspective too, and how we can drive profitability and decrease methane at the same time. That's awesome. So I think that's where we're heading, honestly, though, is how can we make these into more of just that, almost the shop list of today. Tomorrow it's just going to be the action list based upon all these different things that we're plugging in together. Yes, there's algorithms that are being tested today, looking at the genetics, looking at their real-time data, their milk data, the weather, and decide, okay, well, should this cow be bred today or should she go one more cycle? So I think that's what's exciting is where we're heading in that perspective. And again, it comes back to, though, it's a tailored conversation. Right. It doesn't have to be a cookie cutter, one-stop deal. Like this is the way that we're all going to go. It really matters what type of milk market you're in. It matters what type of climate you're in. And obviously, what's the region of the country overall that you're in, because no two farms are the same and no two farms have the same milk markets nor the customer base. And so that's what we have to do is make sure that it's a precision discussion, but it's definitely tailored fit to the farm itself.
I feel like the conversation is starting to shift. For the last several years, there's a lot of talk about using the facets of the animals to bucket them into groups and managing animals as groups. Now I start to hear more conversations really coming back to managing animals as individuals and making decisions that are what's best. As you said, that cow, should we breed her today based on these factors or let her go a cycle? From the Holstein Association standpoint, that's exciting for me because individual animal ID is the heartbeat of our business. So I'm excited to hear you talk about some of those things as well, because again, as we talk to folks in the industry and dairy farmers, it does seem like it's really coming back to, hey, we know so much. How do we do what's best for this individual animal and maximize her potential and her profit?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's shift gears a little bit, Nick, and talk more about your involvement with the Red and White Dairy Cattle Association. So you talked about this a little bit in your introduction. So Tell me a little bit more about the story of how you got involved with red and white cattle. You touched on that early cow that was really key for you and your family. I'm not sure if she's your favorite cow you've ever worked with or if there's a different cow you want to give a shout out to, but just talk to me a little bit more about really how you got engaged fully with red and whites.
Yeah. No, she probably is the favorite that I've ever worked with just because she was so consistent. An animal that all the way up until her last days that just did everything that you wanted for you, right? And obviously credit a lot to Richard Green and the breeding that he's had over the years. I think that was pretty special. As far as, moving into red and whites and the association, I was given a call by a friend, Ryan Griffin. I think it was 2019 is when it was. Just wanted to know if I had any interest to join the board. And, that was my kind of first entrance into being on a board. And I was pretty excited about it, right? And be able to see what the leadership was like, the association. Up to that point, my involvement with the association purely was around, I was a member. I engaged within shows and obviously participated in sales that the association had put on. But when I joined the board, we are in a different state than we are today, that's for sure. We're a small board at the time, only really half of our board members that we should have had. We're now up to a board of 9, but it was a bit of a struggle, to say the least. I would say that we were not that present anymore to our membership or any other association. And so as we continued here through the last 6 years, that's been our mission, right? Was to do what's right for our youth, but also to make sure that our membership knew that we were working for them. As I finished my 6th year here this year, my 4th year as president, I'm very excited of where we are. We've got an extremely strong board of 9 individuals that are not only active in the industry, but they want to be active in the industry, right? And I think that that's a huge part of any association. And Lindsay, you and I have talked about this, right, on countless PDCA calls, is that, we need to be thriving organizations. As a dairy industry as a whole, this is where we need to figure out more together. It's not to say that anybody wants to merge everything into one single breed, because I don't think that that's what's the right path for anybody. I mean, the diversity is what makes us an exciting and an attractive industry overall. But there are so many things that we could be collaborating on at a stronger level. I've encouraged the PDCA board to do that. Obviously, the incoming president, Amanda Noner, I've encouraged her to continue that progress as she takes the office. For us, our main thing was to be active and be seen. And so we've done that over the last few years for sure. Became a part of the Nashville event that Chris and Tim put on in terms of the All-American. I think that got us a spark again. We've now are in our 2nd breed sale, bringing those back, and obviously full member meetings over the last 4 years. But really, I would say it's the growth of our breed that's excited me the most, right? I think we're still the fastest growing breed of everybody, I'm pretty sure. But when you go just from a show aspect, right, and you see, look at last year, the winter calf class. I mean, my goodness, that was huge, right? And we've continued to grow membership year after year, and people have real interest in red and whites. And I feel like they are a different animal than what people thought about 10, 15, 20 years ago. I can remember as a kid, right? A red and white animal was a negative thing.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I feel like it's extremely positive. I think from a production aspect, we've greatly improved that. I'm maybe a little biased. I think they're pretty animals. So I think that where we are with red and white, where it's going, it's only going to get better. I have all the faith in the world in my current board and where that goes. We've achieved some really, really good things. And hopefully here, we're going to have another successful sale coming up for Black Friday. And done a great job in getting lots there. Robert Texera, he's kind of my right-hand man on this, leading it, and been a great addition to the board as well. It's really cool to see what's happened, right, over 6 years, where it wasn't that we didn't have dedicated board members. We did have those. We just were few, and we've continued to expand upon that. And we've got a great set of folks there in our office, right? We don't have an office officially, but Tracy and Carly have been fantastic, and we just keep pushing on. So it's been pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's been fun for me to kind of watch from the outside looking in and hear you talk through the years about what was going on with the board and how hard you guys were working to really re-engage and re-energize the board and also your membership. We all know every dairy farmer is so busy, whether you're a dairy farmer or not, everybody's busy. And it can be hard to say like, hey, I'm going to take my time, especially for an organization like Red and White, where you have a very small staff. The board is a working board. why do you think it's important for members to, even though they're so busy, why do you think it's important to carve out that little extra time to take on those leadership roles within the organizations?
I think it comes back to, do you want these things to exist for yourself in the future or possibly your future kids? I looked at it as an opportunity, obviously, for my first entrant into board leadership, but it's definitely changed over 6 years of how I look at it. And you hit on it, right? I do this all for free. I'm not in the same position as you, but essentially from an association perspective, I have the same type of role.
Yep.
And get no pay. We pay 2 people part-time, and the rest of us are working for the love of the breed. And I think that's the big part of it right there, is that if you want this to not only be something that exists in the future, but also is something that's extremely beneficial and thriving, you've got to give a little time, right? And I've had many conversations with different members over the years, encouraged every one of them to seek a board seat.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have 2 obviously open up here as myself and Grayson Schmidt rotate off at the end of the year. And I've been, kind of dialing the phone, figuring out, who has interests, and thankfully we've got, a core group right now that's very interested. And from my take with them, they are extremely energetic and want to be active. So that's good. But I think it's all about the preservation and thriving, right? I mean, if we didn't have passion for these things and didn't care about them, we wouldn't be doing anything.
Yeah.
We wouldn't see the growth that we've seen in shows. We wouldn't see the excitement around the advancement in dairy cattle. I mean, you look at Holstein Convention, you wouldn't have people that were excited to go there. A lot of our youth events, even outside of showing, you look at Close Bowl and those types of things. I mean, it'd be real hard to have it without an animal, to be honest.
Yep.
All we'd be doing is talk about what happened in past history, and that's it. So
yeah.
I think that's kind of my rallying cry, right, for people, is that if you want these things to continue to grow, or if you've got ideas how they could be better, get on a board. It doesn't have to be a breed board. It can be anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Get out there, share your voice, and make a difference.
I couldn't have said it any better myself. Thanks for touching into that. So you talked earlier about the excitement around the breed, how quickly the breed's growing. Where do you see the biggest growth opportunities for red and white Holsteins and red and white dairy cattle?
I think it's the continued advancement on the sire side right now. That's our biggest opportunity. Obviously, Apple was a big part of it. And I think we've seen now ways that we're trying to spur off of that side of the equation. There are some excellent black and white bulls that are coming out today that have that red factor carrier to them that I know we're going to continue to utilize and hopefully bring some of those genes in. But I think from a member perspective, when you look at red and white, the big opportunities are really around how you shape the youth side of our organization. We got rid of our queen contest. I think it was 3 years ago now. We moved to an ambassador program, which I think has been extremely beneficial for anybody that's been interested in it. I think it allows obviously a broader group to be involved and potentially, take on that role. But also it's something that is, I'd say, more focused on where we are and where we're going from an association, highly involved in terms of getting youth at shows, excited about different things, social media involvement, different types of contests that they've set up in the past. We can always do better there and always do more. And I think that that's probably what gives the most excitement too about some of our newest board members, is that they have that drive and want, because they themselves were part of red and white youth events previously. Mm-hmm. So I think that's from a membership perspective, that's our biggest opportunity and our biggest growth area, is really getting the youth more involved. And something else, right, that we've talked on too from a PDCA perspective is those that are outside of the junior bracket and to that early adult age of, okay, how do we keep people excited and involved and wanting to stay connected to dairy if they aren't, involved in a farm or in a company that's part of the industry, right? There's plenty of people that are like that. Had a great junior career in dairy, and now they're working at Amazon and they don't have a cow. How do we make sure that they continue to have a place within the associations? And I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll be back in just a moment with more from Nick, but first, a quick word from Holstein Association USA.
Do you know someone making a big impact in the Holstein industry? Each year, Holstein Association USA honors outstanding community leaders with prestigious awards, the Distinguished Young Holstein Breeder, Distinguished Leadership, and Elite Breeder Awards. The Elite Breeder Award honors a living Holstein Association USA member, family, partnership or corporation that has bred outstanding animals and made a lasting contribution to the advancement of U.S. registered Holsteins. The Distinguished Leadership Award recognizes an individual whose leadership, service, and vision have strengthened Holstein Association USA and the dairy community as a whole. The Distinguished Young Holstein Breeder Award celebrates the accomplishments of young registered Holstein breeders ages 21 to 40. The deadline to submit your nominations is January 31st, 2026. Winners will be recognized at the 2026 National Holstein Convention held June 22nd through 25th in Orlando, Florida. Submit your nomination today to help celebrate the leaders who positively influence the dairy community.
Thanks for sticking with us. Let's jump back into the conversation. All right, Nick, so let's shift gears again to the third component I wanted to talk about, and that's your involvement with the Holstein Foundation. So you've been engaged to the Holstein Foundation for several years, and this coming year, you're going to be stepping into the role as chair of the Holstein Foundation Board of Trustees. So continuing that board service and taking on another leadership role within the Holstein Foundation. Looking ahead, what excites you most about the foundation's work and the opportunities that it provides for our next generation?
Obviously, I appreciate the opportunity to be the next chair. I thought I was going to have a little bit more time in between leading one space before I got into another leadership role, but that's how things go. I think for me, the most exciting thing that is coming from the foundation side, right, is a lot of what we just were talking about in terms of how we keep people engaged. Young Dairy Leader Institute, fantastic organization and opportunity for young adults. I was in class 10 with my wife, and it definitely shaped a lot of what I do today in my job, changed a lot about my thought process and the way that I have approached boards. And I think it's a great opportunity, but it's only one thing. And so how can we continue to find those different places to fill the gaps? We're looking at some exciting things when you think about the high school through college age range of our youth that are in dairy, thinking about a lot of stuff we're talking about at the beginning. Where are we going in farms, right? How's the data going to become more and more a part of what they do, whether or not they are managing a farm or they're a nutritionist or they work for an industry like Zoetis. I think the other aspect too, right, that we keep talking about is what's the best use of our funds as we continue down this path of youth engagement and young adults, trying to find the right places to put the money to make sure that people are wanting to stay involved is key too, right? We've got a lot of people that are always willing to donate to YDLI or a lot of our scholarships, right, that we have in memoriam of a lot of the great people that have led our industry. But how can we find those different programs that make the most sense for people that are out of YDLI, or maybe we'll never have a chance to maybe be on the Holstein Association board, but they want to stay highly involved and continue in the youth aspect of it. So I think those are the things that we're going to test the waters on here over the next couple of years. I'm excited to start my second term as well with the foundation board. And we've got a great set of trustees that are on here. And I have every bit of faith of how we all work together to make sure that the foundation continues to be the best it can.
You're right. We've got excellent people involved on the trustees. We've got a diverse group, an energetic group. And I think we're in a fun position where we've been fortunate to have resources. And as you said, just figuring out how do we allocate those? How do we best meet the needs of what the industry needs today and how we can keep these young people energized and engaged? So I'm looking forward to our conversations in the next few years. Just touching again really quick. So you mentioned you're a YDLI graduate, Young Dairy Leaders Institute, along with your wife. What do you feel like, as you think about back on your YDLI experience, what do you feel like is one thing that really sticks with you from that? And then also, again, as we talk about how busy people are, it can be hard to make time to invest in yourself. How would you encourage people to say, hey, YDLI is something that you should seriously think about and it's worth your time and energy?
I will say that the ability to really create your own project, be that more of a self-starter of something that's completely from scratch, is probably what was the biggest impact for me. We've kind of changed it a little bit over the years, even from class 10 of what we do in that aspect in your project, your capstone. But I think that was something for me that allowed not only to get outside my comfort zone, I started doing more of these types of interactions. I actually was on the radio, I think like 5 or 6 times, if I'm not mistaken, for my capstone. And that was really cool. And it allowed me to obviously advance my public speaking skills. It allowed me to have conversations with folks that obviously may not know much about the industry at all, and really start to shape out why it matters, right? Why does dairy matter? and do it from a different angle. It's not just about the genetic scientific side of things. It's from the nutritional side of things and how that milk gets to their fridge. I think that was a big part of it because it allows me in my current role to have a little bit better interactions as well with consumers and explaining what we do as a business at the same time. And I think that when you look at YDLI, right, that's the whole part of it. Is how does it bring you out of your comfort zone, challenge you, and make you better for it? There's the obvious points that we went through in different workshops that were extremely beneficial. But I think that ability that the program allows you to really shape a project yourself, make it your own, and make sure that it is successful, that's what is most exciting for me. The time commitment, though, like you said, that's probably the biggest thing for anybody, whether it's in your career, a side project like this, any kind of leadership opportunities. Time management is always going to be the barometer for success or failure. Right. And I think that when you look at people that are being promoted in their roles to different opportunities, it's all about, honestly, how they manage their time. They may not be the best one at that specific job. I mean, I've seen it time and time again, right? But they are the best at managing their time and getting the task done.
Yep.
And they know how to reach out for help when they need it, and they don't sit there and struggle, which I think that's a big lesson to a lot of people to understand and learn. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. People actually signify that as a bigger opportunity for leadership than anything else, because you recognize where your limits are. And help doesn't mean that you're just going to throw your hands in the air and have somebody else do the job. It means that you're looking for some kind of guidance. And so I would say that, that's a beginning stage, right, of the time management that was taught to me. I mean, you learn those things in college and school, but that program that definitely started to shape a little bit more of how I look at time management and overall leadership. And I continue today, right? I look for other opportunities that exist out there like YDLI. I haven't found one that's exactly as good, I'll tell you that. I still think that it's the top that's out there. It's definitely a huge impact on myself and others that have gone through it. So I would say that, yes, it's going to take your time, but you're going to put time in the right spots that are most beneficial for your growth.
Yep, I love that. Nick, so you and your wife have been generous supporters of the Holstein Foundation, and we sincerely appreciate that. Why is giving back to the dairy community meaningful to you personally?
Well, because it's given us so much. I mean, that's the easy answer. Without dairy, I can tell you my wife and I would not be where we are today. We wouldn't have had the lessons that we've learned. We wouldn't have the opportunities that have been put in front of us. We wouldn't have the friends that we've shared and shaped and those friendships over the years. And so when I look at the Holstein Foundation, well, when both of us look at it, it's that opportunity to continue that for somebody else. You want to make sure that any door and every door is open for people to allow themselves to find what makes them and who's the right group of people that are there for their support team. I think YDLI does that. There's people, obviously, that we still engage with from YDLI in our class on a regular basis. There are people in my class that honestly were in school with me that I didn't have as many interactions with them at the time in undergrad, but I've got more interactions now because of YDLI.
Yeah.
And we're not in the same type of industry at all, but I think that's where you find out that support team. And so that's why we've continued to give back to the Holstein Foundation. That's why we give back to a lot of different areas. It's because we want to make sure that those opportunities continue to exist for years. And, as long as we have the ability to do it, that's what we're going to do, is we're going to continue to give back so others have those chances to have the same things that we did.
Just a few more questions here to just kind of close on a personal note, Nick, as we're visiting here about the importance of mentors in your career. So let's talk a little bit more about mentors. Who would be some individuals that you think have had the biggest impact on your life or your career? And what's one or two lessons that you've learned from them that is still something you think about today?
I think one of them that honestly I probably talk to on a more frequent basis than anybody is Dr. Mike Lormore. He heads up our technical service team here at Zoetis. He is a Cornell grad as well. I think what's been exciting for me is that from day one at Zoetis, Mike and I have always kind of clicked. I do seek out a lot of guidance from him in different aspects, whether it be personal or a job perspective. And what I always appreciate, right, is that he's an open ear, and he'll give you the thoughts if you want him to, or he's just there to kind of listen to things. Obviously, my parents, they've been a huge part that's shaped who I am. It's a different feeling thinking about a kid growing up in the country in Indiana to now he lives out in Massachusetts, hours away from all of his family. that doesn't keep me from staying engaged with them. I mean, I talk to my dad twice a day, every day,
Mm-hmm.
and I have since college. But I think looking at the work ethic that they had and what they did to make sure that my brother and I had every opportunity possible is a big thing for me, and why I look up to them as mentors. When I was talking about what I want to do in my career, I mean, they footed the bill for me to go to a private school for high school. Hopefully that was returned back to them for the fact that they didn't pay hardly anything for college, because I wanted to make sure that I was going to find as many scholarships as possible that I could. I really wanted to go to Cornell, and it wasn't cheap. I think probably another mentor for me, honestly, I have a lot of conversations with Tim Abbott. I obviously got to know Tim because of my wife and my father-in-law, and I didn't have much interaction with him before that. Great conversations for sure. And honestly, another person too that Tim talks with is Marty Matlock. Marty is the reason that I actually got into showing nationally. Marty and Robin took me under their wing when I think it was 5th or 6th grade. They were the people that took me to my first state show, first state fair. And it's been a rewarding experience to be able to learn from them. You know, one of the great people we had with us at all times was Clay Schneider, or Wilbur, as we have to call him. And there were so many different things you learn from Wilbur, but it was a great experience. And I think for me on a youth perspective like that was huge. Getting to interact with different people that, you know, I hadn't at the time in the state and outside the state. I just really appreciated their willingness to take me and just tag along. And I would say that that's a lot of how I started to shape my eye for what I saw in good cattle as well.
I always love hearing people talk about mentors and hearing stories like that. And to me, it ties back into what we've talked about a lot today, which is youth and just the importance of being engaged and being there with youth, because you never know what the impact of even one interaction is going to be on somebody's life. So Nick, outside of work, is there a hobby or passion that you enjoy that helps keep you relaxed or grounded? I know you log a lot of time on the road like I do, but when you're at home, what's the hobby that you're passionate about?
Fishing, 100% fishing. Whether it's out in the ocean, ice fishing, or just any kind of pond or stream I can find around here. That's something that I found out pretty early in my career that was my fun space. I know I got a lot of that from my grandfather that passed away while I was in college. He was an avid fisherman and big duck hunter. It's something that I get an immediate thrill from as soon as I wake up and know that's where I'm headed. It's absolutely relaxing when you're out there on the ocean, when things aren't biting. But it's also a great way, right, to interact and be who you are with friends and let the work stuff slip away for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, you know, Ashley and I love to travel a lot, as I know that you and Randy like to do as well. And just to see the different parts of the world and experience things that, you know, we don't see every day. And I think that that's an awesome opportunity we get because of what we are able to take away and be given from our careers. But it's always rewarding, right, to whenever you get those chances just to sneak away and spend a few days in some other part of the globe that will teach you something else. So that's probably the two main things for myself.
Travel can certainly give you a lot of perspective, whether it's seeing amazing sights or going through the trials and tribulations that are sometimes associated with trying to travel by plane.
Yep.
So Nick, before we wrap up, we always like to end our Holstein Connections episodes on a light note. So I've got 5 quick this or that questions for you. So I'll give you 2 choices and you can tell me which to pick. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right. So I might be able to guess this first one, but farm dog or barn cat?
Barn cat.
Yep. I think Nick and I share a love for our feline friends. All right. Second one, barn talk with breeders or presenting on stage at a meeting?
Oh, talking with breeders.
Cheddar or Swiss cheese?
Swiss for me.
Long drive or short flight?
Oh, probably a short flight. I'm a direct kind of guy. I don't mind a long flight either, but the long driving, I think that's definitely more of my wife's thing than myself.
Yeah. All right, last one. Steak or ice cream?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, you've got the dairy cow that brings you both.
Yeah, our amazing Holstein cow.
That's right. That's right. Probably ice cream, honestly. Yeah, I'll go with ice cream.
More variety available with the ice cream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Nick, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure for me, both professionally and personally, working with you. And I really appreciate you joining us here today and talking to us more about your story. And just thanks for all you do for our breeders every day.
It's been exciting.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Holstein Connections. Until next time, here's to celebrating the people and cows that make our breed so special.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Holstein Connections. Whether you're in the barn, on the road, or just tuning in for your dose of dairy news, we're glad you're here. Until next time, this is Holstein Connections.